Management games in 2026 are looking seriously stacked. We've seen everything from cozy business sims and chaotic tycoon games to weird genre mashups that honestly shouldn't work, but somehow totally do. Hello and welcome to GameGen. If you enjoy building businesses, managing people, designing systems, or just watching numbers go up in the most satisfying way possible, there's probably something here for you. And trust me, some of the ideas on this list get surprisingly creative. So let's jump into it. Prison Architect 2. Prison Architect 2 is the long-awaited sequel to one of the most iconic management sims ever, and it's taking everything people loved about the original and expanding it in some pretty ambitious ways. The biggest and most obvious change is the jump from classic 2D blueprint style into full 3D, which might sound like just a visual upgrade at first, but it actually changes how you design and run your prison in a big way. Originally announced with an optimistic release window, Prison Architect 2 ran into some development delays that stretched far longer than anyone expected. There were setbacks in early builds, concerns about performance, and a few periods where it honestly felt like the game had gone quiet for good. Pre-orders were even refunded back in 2024 because the team wanted to make sure they didn't deliver something half-baked, a sign of respect, not defeat. But here's the thing. The game is absolutely alive, actively being shaped, and it's coming together. In January 2026, the developers launched a closed beta for players to test multi-story prisons, deeper social sims, and all of the new 3D systems. That beta isn't just a flash in the pan. It's proof that Paradox Interactive and Koku are committed to getting this right rather than rushing it out the door. Sure, the path has been rocky, but the result is shaping up to be something genuinely worth the wait. The transition to full 3D building, dynamic inmate relationships, and brand new career modes all suggest this isn't just Prison Architect with a coat of paint. Transport Fever 3. Transport Fever 3 is all about what happens after you build the perfect route. It's not just trains making money anymore. It's traffic, noise, time travel, maintenance, and entire cities reacting to every decision you make. Urban Games is taking the Transport Tycoon formula and pushing it into full simulation territory. The biggest change you'll notice right away is the day-night cycle in dynamic weather. Watching your networks run at night or during bad conditions isn't just pretty, it affects how the world feels and adds a bit more atmosphere to what is usually a very numbers-heavy game. The new subarctic biome is also a great addition, with tundra and swampy areas that make expansion feel more challenging instead of just dropping tracks wherever you want. On the management side, Transport Fever 3 is way deeper. Roads are no longer just roads, you can actually design proper intersections, control lanes, and even run underground tram lines. Railways also matter more mechanically now, with different track types and priority systems that let you decide which trains actually get the right of way. And yes, helicopters are finally a thing, especially useful for remote areas and offshore industries like oil rigs, which add a whole new logistics puzzle. What I really like is how the game shifts toward reward-based management. Citizens care about time travel, comfort, noise, and pollution, so your decisions have visible consequences. Vehicles wear down, cargo has deadlines, and sloppy planning will absolutely come back to bite you. But in a satisfying, I can fix this kind of way. Bloody Hell Hotel. Bloody Hell Hotel is one of those games that immediately make you go, wait, what? But in the best possible way. It's an upcoming first-person simulation game from Unfold Games, and it feels like Stardew Valley and Hotel Renovator took a very dark turn and moved into a haunted castle directed by Tim Burton. Cozy management? Kind of. Vampire horror? Absolutely. The premise is wonderfully unhinged. You play as a vampire who wakes up after centuries of sleep, only to find your once glorious castle completely trashed. Instead of ruling the night like the old days, you decide the most reasonable solution is to turn the place into a hotel. A hotel? For humans? You know, food. Guests. On the surface, it's a solid hotel management sim. You'll be cleaning cobwebs, repairing floors, repainting walls, and decorating rooms with stylish Gothic furniture to attract richer guests. Expanding and redesigning your castle is a big part of the loop, and resource management actually matters if you want to grow instead of just barely surviving. Where things get spicy is guest management. You can play the role of a polite 5-star vampire host and just take their money, or you can fully embrace the dark side. Annoying guests, drain their blood to restore your powers. Feeling efficient? Turn guests into ingredients for the kitchen and save on food costs. Outside the hotel, there's dungeon crawling, combat, crafting, and even farming unholy crops and raising zombie cows. The hand-drawn Gothic art style really sells the vibe. Creepy, funny, and oddly charming. I'll be covering more games just like this one, so if that's your kind of thing, come hang out and subscribe. Nivalis. Nivalis is one of those games that immediately stands out just by existing. It's set in the same neon-drenched cyberpunk world as Cloudpunk, but instead of zipping around the city as a courier, you're finally stepping off the hover car and putting down roots. The easiest way to describe it is Stardew Valley meets Blade Runner. Cozy, personal, but wrapped in a moody sci-fi city that's slowly falling apart. At its core, Nivalis is a management sim with a very human scale. You start small, running something modest like a noodle stand or a tiny cafe, and slowly work your way up to owning flashier businesses like bars and nightclubs. What makes it different is that you're not managing everything from a top-down menu. You actually walk through your shops in first person, placing down furniture, tweaking layouts, and checking on your staff, and seeing customers using the space that you designed. Money matters, of course. Menus, ingredients, employees, profits, but it all feels grounded and tangible. Then there's the slice of life side, which is where Nivalis really shines. You can buy and decorate your own apartment, go fishing at the docks, grow food using hydroponics, cook meals, and spend time with the city's strange and struggling residents. Relationships aren't just flavor either. You can build friendships and even romances, making the city feel less like a backdrop and more like a place you belong to. The atmosphere ties everything together. The city has a full day-night cycle, dynamic weather, and a constant sense that it's slowly sinking into the ocean. You move around by boat instead of cars, drifting through flooded streets under glowing signs. Pax Autocratica. Pax Autocratica is one of those games where you read the description and think, there's no way this actually works, and then it absolutely does. It's a satirical totalitarian colony sim mashed together with a roguelike FPS, and somehow the tone, mechanics, and chaos all just click into place. On the colony side, you're ruling over a population that is equal parts terrified and disturbingly enthusiastic. Your citizens will push themselves to extremes in the name of productivity and ideology, fully buying into the system you've created. Just shape the society through policies like curfews, public feasts, or increasingly invasive surveillance, and every decision nudges your people closer to either blind loyalty or open rebellion. And if things start slipping, well, propaganda is always an option. But so is force. You'll construct housing, barracks, surveillance towers, and fine-tune everything from working conditions to salaries, all while keeping a close eye on who might be thinking a little too independently. Then there's the roguelike FPS half, which feels like a completely different game, but in the best way. You'll personally lead missions beyond the colony walls, taking on high-risk objectives like eliminating targets or raiding enemy outposts alongside soldiers who are fanatically loyal to you. The combat is fast, flashy, and surprisingly smooth. Weapons evolve into absurdly powerful tools, turning encounters into explosive, crowd-clearing chaos that's genuinely fun on its own. The Guild, Europa 1400. The Guild Europa 1400 is one of those strategy games that feels nothing like a normal strategy game. There are no massive armies to command and no world maps to conquer. Instead, you are dropped into a medieval city and told to do something much harder. Build a family dynasty that survives dirty politics, ruthless rivals, and time itself. You start at the bottom as a nobody with a bit of cash and a profession. Maybe you become a baker supplying bread to the city, a blacksmith forging tools, or a scholar dabbling in alchemy. Maybe a rogue living off less legal opportunities. The choice massively shapes how you play, because everything in the guild runs on a living economy. Prices rise and fall, resources run out, and rivals are constantly trying to undercut you. If iron is scarce, great. Unless your competitor bought it all first and is now selling it back at triple the price. Where the game really shines is politics. Once you start gaining influence, you can run for city offices that give you absurd levels of power. Judges can make crimes disappear, tax collectors can misplace public funds, and other roles let you directly ruin enemies through the legal system. And if the law doesn't work fast enough, well, sabotage, framing, arson, and kidnapping are all very much on the table. This is also a life sim, not just a tycoon game. Your character ages, marries, has children, and eventually dies. And when that happens, you simply take over as your heir and keep the family legacy alive. Hopefully richer, stronger, and more feared than before. ReStory, Chill Electronics Repairs. ReStory Chill Electronics Repairs is exactly what it sounds like. A low-stress management game about fixing old electronics, taking things apart, and slowly bringing forgotten tech back to life. There are no timers yelling at you, no angry customers storming in. It's a cozy, methodical experience that's way more about the process than the pressure. You run a small electronics repair shop where people bring in broken gadgets with stories attached to them. Old radios, dusty consoles, mysterious devices from another era. Each item becomes a little puzzle. Instead of abstract progress bars, you're physically opening up devices, inspecting the components, replacing parts, and figuring out what went wrong. It feels hands-on in a very satisfying way, especially if you enjoy games that let you tinker at your own pace. The management side is intentionally light. You earn money from repairs, order replacement parts, and gradually upgrade your workspace with better tools and equipment. As your shop grows, so does the complexity of the devices you're trusted with, pushing you to learn new systems without ever feeling overwhelmed. It's less about min-maxing profits and more about building a comfortable routine. What really gives ReStory its charm is the atmosphere. The game leans heavily into a warm, nostalgic vibe with soft lighting, calming music, and a focus on small human moments. Customers often share bits of their lives, turning simple repair jobs into quiet storytelling beats. It feels personal, like you're preserving memories as much as fixing machines. Plague Doctor: Life in Pestilence. Plague Doctor: Life in Pestilence is not a power fantasy. And that's exactly the point. This is a bleak, atmospheric simulation RPG that drops you straight into the nightmare of a medieval plague outbreak, where knowledge is limited, fear spreads faster than disease, and doing your best is often still not enough. You're not here to save everyone. You're here to endure. You play as a plague doctor in a collapsing city, juggling medicine, survival, and impossible decisions. On the gameplay side, it's a careful mix of management and role-playing. You diagnose patients by observing symptoms and then choose treatments based on 14th century understanding. That means herbal remedies, strange concoctions, and yes, bloodletting. Sometimes it helps, often it doesn't. Losing patients is normal, and success feels rare but meaningful. Resources are always tight. Medicine, food, and protective gear are limited, forcing you to decide who gets help and who doesn't. Do you prioritize wealthy citizens who can fund your work, or the poor who are dying out in the streets? Every choice has consequences, and there's really no clean answer. One of the most interesting systems, though, is your own well-being. Constant death, exhaustion, and fear chip away at your sanity. Push yourself too hard, and you risk mental collapse. Or, infection. What really drives the game, though, is its moral tension. You're caught between the church, the state, and the people, all pulling you in different directions. Your decisions shape which districts survive and which become abandoned ruins. Gold Mining Simulator 2. Gold Mining Simulator 2 is all about chasing the classic dream, heading out into the wilderness and digging through dirt and rock in search for riches. Developed by Code Horizon and published by Playway, this one doubles down on that classic rags to riches Alaskan gold rush fantasy, but with way more depth, better visuals, and some long overdue upgrades. The biggest game changer here is multiplayer. For the first time, you're not grinding alone in the frozen wilderness. You can team up with 2 to 4 players and actually run a mining operation together. One person can focus on digging with the excavator, another can manage the wash plant, while someone else keeps an eye on fuel and repairs. It feels much closer to running a real crew instead of being a one-person gold machine. At its core, the game still loves its hard simulation vibes. The terrain is fully deformable, but now it's layered, so you'll hit sand, clay, rocks, and other soil types as you dig deeper, making every claim feel different. Machines also need real care. Parts break, fuel runs out, electricity matters, and repairing things at your workbench is often smarter than buying new gear. Progression is slow yet satisfying. You start with shovels and buckets, then slowly climb toward massive excavators and advanced wash plants. All of this takes place in the harsh Alaskan wilderness around Falcon Creek, complete with multiple biomes, a day-night cycle, and dynamic weather that can seriously mess with your plants. Mad Television Tycoon. Mad Television Tycoon is one of those management games that looks silly on the surface, then quietly eats away at your afternoon. Whether you're talking about the legendary 1991 cult classic Mad TV or its modern 2025/2026 spiritual successor by Eggcode, the core fantasy is the same. You're running a tiny, irrelevant TV station and trying to turn it into a ratings monster with rival networks breathing down your neck. At its heart, the game is all about scheduling chaos. You're constantly filling your broadcast slots with movies, series, news, and special shows, trying to guess what audiences want at any given hour. Primetime is sacred. Waste it on the wrong movie, and your ratings nosedive. Speaking of ads, that's where the pressure really kicks in. Advertisers don't pay for effort, they pay for viewers. Promise 1 million eyeballs and only pull in half that? No payout, sometimes even penalties. So every scheduling decision feels risky, especially early on when your broadcast range barely covers a few neighborhoods. As you grow, the game opens up into production. Instead of recycling old films, you start making your own shows, hiring actors, choosing scripts, building sets, and chasing that elusive breakout hit. At the same time, you're upgrading transmitters and satellites to expand your reach, because higher ratings are meaningless if your signal doesn't reach enough homes. The tone is what really makes Mad TV special though. The original leaned hard into goofy satire and 90s humor, while the modern version smooths things out with a cleaner interface and deeper tycoon systems. Teamfight Manager 2. Teamfight Manager 2 is shaping up to be a serious glow-up for a game that was already a cult favorite. If the first Teamfight Manager felt like managing an auto battle or esports team, the sequel fully commits to that fantasy of running a MOBA organization. And honestly, that's exactly what fans were hoping for. With a planned 2026 release after a strong demo run in late 2025, expectations are high. And so far, it looks like it can deliver. The biggest shift is the move to a proper MOBA-style map. Instead of simple arena fights, matches now play out on a 3-lane battlefield with familiar roles: top, jungle, mid, bottom, and support. You're no longer just drafting numbers, you're managing map pressure, objectives, towers, and neutral monsters, all with the end goal of smashing the enemy nexus. It instantly makes matches feel more strategic and way closer to games like League or Dota. Player simulation is also much smarter. Stats don't just mean more damage anymore, they affect decision making. High-level players rotate better, dodge skills, and make fewer brain-dead plays. Some attributes are even hidden, so you'll need to scout properly and watch matches to figure out who's actually good, not just who looks good on paper. On the management side, it leans hard into Football Manager vibes. Transfers, contracts, rookie scouting, champion comfort levels, and deeply tactical ban/pick phases all matter. Draft the wrong comp, or force a player into a champion they hate, and it can straight up lose you the game. Food Truck Empire. Food Truck Empire is one of those management games that immediately clicks because the premise is so relatable. You see a busy street, hungry people everywhere, and think, yeah, this is taco money. The game starts you off with a single beat-up food truck and slowly lets you build it into a full-blown street food empire, one smart parking decision at a time. At its core, this is a game about designing efficient chaos. You don't just buy a truck and hit go, you design the inside like a tiny moving kitchen puzzle, placing grills, fryers, and prep stations in a way that keeps your crew moving smoothly. Bad layouts mean slower service, longer lines, and customers walking away annoyed. On the outside, looks matter as well. Flashy paint jobs, signs, and lighting increase your prestige and help pull in higher-paying customers who expect more than just greasy comfort food. The menu system is deeper than it first appears as well. Recipes can be tweaked ingredient by ingredient, forcing you to balance cost, quality, and trends. One neighborhood might crave cheap burgers at lunchtime, while another expects fancy, overpriced health food. And tastes change. What sells today might flop tomorrow, so staying flexible is key. Where the game really shines though is the city-wide strategy. Parking spots matter, timing matters, competition is fierce. Prime locations cost more but bring massive foot traffic, and rival food trucks will absolutely try to steal your favorite corners. As your business grows, you'll juggle multiple trucks, staff schedules, maintenance, and city heat maps to dominate the streets. Let's Build a Dungeon. Let's Build a Dungeon is a management sim that flips the classic RPG formula in a really fun way. Instead of gearing up as the hero storming a monster-filled lair, you're the mastermind behind the dungeon itself, designing it, running it, and figuring out how to turn brave adventurers into your main source of income. It feels a bit like running a theme park, except your attractions involve traps, monsters, and very questionable safety standards. The building side of the game is all about designing a dungeon that's challenging but still entertaining. You'll place monsters, traps, treasure rooms, and themed environments, carefully shaping how adventurers progress through your creation. The tricky part is balance. If your dungeon is too easy, heroes get bored and stop visiting. If it's brutally difficult, they won't survive long enough to spend money or spread the word. Finding that sweet spot becomes a satisfying puzzle as you expand and experiment with different layouts and themes. But the game isn't just about building corridors filled with danger. It's also about running a business. You'll set entry fees, sell helpful and overpriced potions, and manage your staff of monsters and NPC workers. Keeping them productive is important, because unhappy employees might stop performing, or cause problems of their own. On top of that, the game adds a clever meta twist where you're essentially managing a virtual MMO, dealing with player feedback, technical issues, and the constant pressure to keep your audience entertained. One of the coolest features is the ability to jump into your own dungeon and test it from the adventurer's perspective. It's a great way to fine-tune difficulty and see if your design actually feels fun. Car Park Capital. Car Park Capital is a management game that immediately stands out because of how unapologetically ridiculous its premise is. Instead of building a beautiful, thriving city full of parks, public transport, and happy pedestrians, this game basically asks, what if cars won? Completely. Developed by Hilkoji Interactive and published by Microprose, it leans heavily into satire while still delivering a surprisingly deep tycoon experience. Your main goal is simple, but hilariously extreme. Buy land, demolish whatever's on it, and replace it with parking lots, garages, and highways. Houses, local shops, and community spaces are just obstacles standing between you and a glorious sea of asphalt. The progression feels very classic Tycoon style, where you constantly expand your territory, optimize layouts, and squeeze out as much profit as possible from your car-dependent empire. Of course, people aren't always thrilled when their neighborhoods get replaced by multi-story parking structures, which is where the game's tongue-in-cheek propaganda system comes in. You'll plaster cities with billboards, blast messaging through loudspeakers, and push the idea that driving equals freedom. There's even a quirky system where you can peek into NPC thoughts to see whether your messaging is working or if they're secretly plotting protests. Beyond just building parking lots, you'll manage the entire car-focused ecosystem. That means drilling for oil, setting up gas stations, and designing infrastructure where literally everything revolves around vehicles, including drive-through services for everyday activities. The Witch's Bakery. The Witch's Bakery is one of those cozy games that feels warm the second you look at it. It mixes bakery management, light RPG exploration, and emotional storytelling, all wrapped inside a colorful modern-day Paris setting. You play as Lune, a young witch chasing her dream of opening a magical bakery. But her pastries don't just taste good, they literally help heal people's emotions. The game runs on a daily routine that keeps things feeling fresh without becoming overwhelming. During the daytime, you're running the bakery, serving customers, managing your small team, and slowly building your reputation around the city. It has that satisfying management loop where you're balancing efficiency, new recipes, and upgrades, but it stays very relaxed and story-focused instead of super stressful. When evening hits, the game opens up a bit more. You can wander through different districts of Paris, meet the locals, build friendships, and discover new recipes or activities. This part gives the game strong life sim vibes, and it really helps the world feel alive and personal, instead of just being a shop simulator. But the most unique part by far comes at night with something called Heart Palaces. Lune can actually enter people's emotional worlds, surreal puzzle-like spaces that represent their struggles. By exploring these places and solving challenges, you gather magical ingredients that let you bake special pastries designed to comfort and help each specific character. It's colorful, charming, and emotionally driven without losing that relaxing, satisfying routine that cozy sim fans usually love. I hope you found this video helpful. Be sure to leave a comment below if any of these games caught your eye, or if there are other upcoming releases you'd like to hear about. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing for more gaming content in the future. Thanks for watching.